Listen carefully, young trader, for what I'm about to tell you is worth more than all the stock tips and market advice you'll ever hear. This is the story of how $50, 50 measly dollars became 10 million. But more importantly, it's the story of how 10 million became nothing, and what that taught me about the nature of speculation, human psychology, and the eternal dance between fear and greed that governs every tick of the market. I was 14 years old when I first walked into Paine-Webber's bucket shop in Boston with $5 burning a hole in my pocket. The year was 1891, and the world was a different place. But the market? The market was exactly the same as it is today, governed by the same emotions, the same patterns, the same human nature that has driven men to fortune and ruin since the beginning of time. You see, most people think trading is about predicting the future, about being right more often than you're wrong. That's the first mistake, and it's a fatal one. Trading isn't about being right. It's about making money when you're right and losing as little as possible when you're wrong. The market doesn't care about your opinions, your hopes, your fears, or your need to pay the rent. The market simply is. In that first bucket shop, watching the tape run across the board, I learned something that would shape everything I did for the next 40 years. Prices move in patterns. Not because the market is predictable, but because human nature is predictable. Fear and greed drive every decision, every buy order, every panic sell. And if you can learn to read these emotions in the tape, if you can discipline yourself to act against your natural instincts, you can make fortunes. But here's what they don't tell you in all those trading books and seminars. Making money is easy compared to keeping it. Any fool can get lucky and catch a big move. I've seen newsboys become millionaires in a single bull market, but keeping that money, learning when to stop, understanding that the market gives and the market takes away, that's where most men fail. I learned this the hard way, more times than I care to remember. By the time I was 20, I had made and lost more money than most men see in a lifetime. I would run my stake from hundreds to thousands, from thousands to tens of thousands, and then watch it all disappear in a single bad trade or a streak of overconfidence. The first time I made a serious fortune, we're talking about what would be millions today. I was still a young man, barely 25. I had caught the great bull market of the early 1900s, riding Union Pacific and Steel and all the darlings of the day. The money came so fast it didn't seem real. I was making more in a day than my father made in a year. I thought I had conquered the market, that I had found the secret that eluded everyone else. That's when the market taught me its cruelest lesson. It doesn't matter how smart you think you are, how many winning trades you've had, or how much money you've made. The moment you start believing your own legend, the moment you think you can't lose, the market will humble you in ways you never imagined possible. I lost it all, every penny, not in a single catastrophic trade, but slowly, methodically, like a man bleeding to death from 1,000 small cuts, I overtraded. I doubled down on losing positions. I let my emotions override my discipline. I committed every sin that I now preach against, and the market extracted its price with mathematical precision. But here's the thing about failure. If you're willing to learn from it, if you're willing to admit your mistakes and study them like a surgeon studying disease, failure becomes your greatest teacher. Each loss taught me something new about myself, about the market, about the dangerous relationship between money and ego. The $50 I started with wasn't just money, it was tuition for the most expensive education a man can receive. Every dollar I lost bought me knowledge that no school could teach, wisdom that no book could impart. I learned that the market is a ruthless teacher that never repeats its lessons but never fails to test your understanding of them. After that first great loss, I spent months studying my mistakes. I went back through every trade, every decision, every moment where I let emotion override logic. I developed what I call the cardinal rules of speculation, principles that would guide every trade I made for the rest of my career. Rule number 1, never trade on hope, fear, or greed. These emotions will cloud your judgment faster than fog rolling in from the ocean. When you hope a stock will go higher, you hold too long. When you fear it will fall, you sell too soon. When greed takes hold, you risk too much on a single idea. The successful speculator learns to recognize these emotions in himself and acts in spite of them, not because of them. Rule number 2. The trend is your friend until it isn't. This sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest lessons to truly internalize. Most traders try to pick tops and bottoms, to catch falling knives and call market turns. They want to be heroes, to buy when everyone else is selling and sell when everyone else is buying. But the real money is made by riding the trends, not fighting them. When a stock is going up, it will keep going up until it doesn't. When it's going down, it will keep going down until it doesn't. Your job isn't to predict when the trend will change. Your job is to ride it while it lasts and get off when it ends. Rule number 3. Position size is everything. You can be right about the direction of a stock 90% of the time, but if you bet too much on the 10% where you're wrong, you'll lose everything. I learned this lesson repeatedly, each time at great cost. The amount you risk on any single trade should never be enough to destroy you if you're wrong. This isn't cowardice, it's mathematics. The trader who lives to trade another day is the one who eventually builds lasting wealth. Rule number 4. Admit when you're wrong, and admit it quickly. The market doesn't care about your ego or your reputation. When a trade goes against you, when the facts change, when you realize you've made an error in judgment, the only rational response is to cut your losses and move on. Every second you spend hoping for a losing trade to turn around is a second you're not looking for the next opportunity. Pride is the most expensive emotion in speculation. With these rules burned into my mind through painful experience, I began my second assault on the market. This time was different. This time I had discipline. This time I understood that trading isn't gambling, it's a business that requires the same careful planning, risk management, and emotional control as any other successful enterprise. I started small again, building my stakes slowly, methodically. Instead of swinging for home runs on every trade, I focused on consistent singles and doubles. Instead of trying to catch every move, I waited for the setups that met my criteria. Instead of risking everything on my convictions, I sized my positions based on probability and potential loss. The money came back not all at once, but steadily, like a river cutting through rock. 5,000 became 10,000, 10,000 became 50,000. And then something magical happened. The compound effect kicked in. When you're trading with real capital, when you have the discipline to let your winners run and cut your losses short, the numbers start to grow exponentially. But the real breakthrough came when I learned to read the tape, not just the prices, but the story behind the prices. Every stock has a personality, a rhythm, a way of moving that reflects the emotions of everyone who owns it. The successful speculator learns to read these personalities like a doctor reads symptoms. He sees accumulation when others see random noise. He recognizes distribution when others see opportunity. I remember the great wheat corner of 1909. The fundamentals looked bullish, crop reports, supply and demand, all the rational reasons to be long. But the tape was telling a different story. The smart money was getting out, slowly, quietly, without disturbing the price. While the newspapers were trumpeting the bull case, the tape was whispering warnings to anyone who knew how to listen. I went short wheat when everyone else was going long, not because I was smarter, but because I had learned to trust the tape over my opinions, to read the market's true intentions rather than what I wanted to see. That single trade made me more money than most men see in a lifetime. But more importantly, it confirmed what I had learned through years of losses. The market always tells the truth, but only to those who know how to listen. By 1929, I had built my fortune to over $10 million, an astronomical sum in those days. I owned houses, yachts, everything money could buy. The newspapers called me the Great Bear of Wall Street, and men sought my advice as if I could move markets with a word. But inside, I knew something that my admirers didn't. I had learned to respect the market's power, to never underestimate its ability to humble even the most successful speculator. When the crash came in October of that year, I was ready. While others panicked, I had positioned myself for the decline months in advance. The same tape reading that had made me fortunes in bull markets now showed me the distribution, the quiet selling by those in the know, the subtle shifts in market character that preceded the great collapse. But here's the tragic irony of my story. Even after learning all these lessons, Even after decades of experience, I still fell victim to the very human weaknesses I had spent my career studying. In my later years, I began to deviate from my own rules. I let ego and emotion creep back into my trading. I took risks I never should have taken, made bets I never should have made. The market, as always, was waiting. It stripped away my fortune with the same methodical precision that it had originally bestowed it. The man who had once made millions reading the tape found himself reading it wrong, fighting trends instead of following them, hoping when he should have been accepting reality. This is perhaps the most important lesson I can leave with you. The market doesn't care about your past successes. Every day is a new day, every trade a fresh start. The moment you think you've mastered the market is the moment you've set yourself up for destruction. Humility isn't just a virtue in speculation, it's a survival skill. So what does this mean for you, sitting there with your computer screen and your dreams of financial freedom? It means that before you risk a single dollar, you must understand what you're truly up against. You're not just competing against other traders or fighting market volatility. You're battling your own human nature, every evolutionary instinct that served our ancestors well on the savannah, but will destroy you in the markets. The path from $50 to millions isn't about finding the perfect system or the secret strategy that guarantees success. It's about developing the discipline to follow proven principles, even when every fiber of your being screams at you to do otherwise. It's about learning to lose small and win big, to be wrong often but profitable always. Most importantly, it's about understanding that money is just the scorecard, not the game itself. The real game is the battle for self-mastery, the daily struggle to remain rational in an irrational world, to stay disciplined when discipline feels like cowardice, to remain humble when success breeds arrogance. The $50 I started with taught me more about life than any fortune I ever made. It taught me that every dollar lost to bad judgment, every fortune squandered through overconfidence, every mistake repeated through stubborn pride, these are all investments in wisdom, tuition paid to the harshest but most honest teacher you'll ever encounter. The market doesn't lie, doesn't flatter, doesn't care about your feelings or your financial obligations. It simply reflects the collective emotions of everyone who participates in it. And if you can learn to read those emotions, to profit from the eternal dance between fear and greed, to remain calm when others panic and cautious when others celebrate, then you have a chance to join the small minority who consistently extract wealth from the markets. But remember this above all, the market gives, and the market takes away. The key to long-term success isn't just making money, it's keeping it. And keeping it requires a level of discipline and self-awareness that few possess and fewer maintain throughout their careers. That $50 beginning wasn't just the start of my fortune, it was the foundation of an education that never ended, even when it cost me everything I had earned. Learn from my mistakes, follow the rules, even when they feel wrong, and never, ever believe that you've conquered the market. Because in the end, the market always wins. The best you can hope for is to be a worthy opponent, to play the game with skill and dignity, and to walk away while you still have something left to show for your efforts. The tape never lies, but it only speaks to those who have paid the price to learn its language.